Hey folks, just on my way home from work today. I didn't hit a deer or anything so far, but so I'm going to be watching the road, and I won't be looking directly at the camera for much of this. Apparently it's going to be getting brighter and darker depending on the autofocus, because it's kind of dusk right now. But I've been thinking, I had a discussion with a friend this morning over Facebook Messenger, and a little bit of it kind of, I mean, we were running into a brick wall with the discussion, because his points and my points counteracted each other, and the other one wouldn't accept each other's perspective. And it made me wonder, like, and I was thinking about how hard it is to debunk the way that people view economics. People think that the government needs to be run like your household. Like, they think that debt matters. And in your household it does. Like, if you end up in debt, you're gonna have to, like, you have to pay it back, or else you're gonna be charged interest, and you're paying that interest, and the forces that be are insurmountable if you don't have a way to pay that back. And it, on its face, it seems reasonable to paint governments that way. But I think that there's more and more evidence to I think that it's fully debunked, actually, that debt matters to governments. What matters might matter to some degree depending on who you owe, but it doesn't matter if, say, Canada runs a deficit for every friggin' year. We produce things that people buy all around the world, and they're not going to stop buying those things just because we owe money. It's not like there's a climate issue that's going to destroy our ability to grow crops. Like, sorry, it fully is like that. But when you tell people that you need to fund education, healthcare, you need to fund different social programs, and you need to install new ones like universal housing or universal UBI, and there's lots of good left-wing arguments against UBI. I don't want to leave that without being said, because it's important. I'm just not discussing that right now. And I think that, in my view, UBI, Universal Basic Income, is an important step into, helping people at the moment, as long as you don't remove other welfare and social security programs, social safety nets. The same thing that people who consider running a government, like running a household, they consider those things entitlements. They use the word entitlements. And I think that betrays a lot of what they think. Like, it's not an entitlement. It's not a handout. Stop pretending that it's a handout. We pay into this system, and we're not getting everything we need out of it. Instead, people are getting, like, corporations and wealthy people have tax loopholes that the rest of us don't have. I pay taxes every year on all of my income, and if I'm lucky, I get a little bit back because I paid too much. It's not a bonus, it's not a handout, it's because I paid more than the percentage that I owed. So I get that extra back. A refund is just my money. It's not fucking somebody else's money. But it's really difficult to get somebody to even think differently about economics because they believe so firmly in this idea that a home and a government need to be run the same way. And even businesses don't run like houses. They go into, like Donald Trump, for example, has been bankrupt multiple times. But because he's a business owner and a multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire, whatever, it doesn't mean the same thing for him as it would for me. He can go into a bank, get a loan, buy a business, and say this business is an asset. Whether that business makes money or not is irrelevant. That business is now an asset based on his reputation with the bank. His personal assets don't have to be touched because he's got these other situations set up. Like, I was listening to a video that explained it really well, where like for regular people, your debt ratio needs to be below a certain threshold or you will consistently be rejected for loans, for anything you need, credit cards, for like all that stuff. But if you are like in the multi-millionaires club, and it's even more so if you're a billionaire, your debt to income ratio, your debt ratio, doesn't fucking matter. Because you're dealing with money on such a high level, on such a scale, that it's utterly meaningless whether or not you have what your debt ratio is. And in fact, they prefer for people of that economic status to have high debt ratios, because that means that they're creating wealth, or so they say. Which, I mean, I know it's confusing, but it's all counterintuitive. Like when we think about, well, I can't afford to spend more than I have, and if I spend more than I have, then I have to pay it back or I'm in big trouble. And that's just not the way it works for big companies, and it's just not the way it works for governments. Like, for example, like everybody talks about Uber they haven't made a dime. They've been losing money every quarter ever since they opened. But somehow they still keep going, they still keep expanding, they still keep having this money access. They still pay their drivers, even though it's not always good. I get paid when I drive for Uber. It's not like not having money or not making money makes any fucking difference to them. And part of the reason is because it's all fucking made up. Yeah, we have to live within this, but the people and governments and companies that are at the top, they don't live within it. They run it. And I'm not trying to say like it's some conspiratorial they either. Like, I know there's people who believe that it's run by 5 particular families and they're all whatever, this and that and the other thing. And yes, 8 or 9 people have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the population. And that's unacceptable. But it's not like they all get together and conspire to run the world. The system is the way it is, and they are on top of it, so it doesn't affect them. And governments are the same way. The difference, of course, is that it depends on the country. Yes, absolutely, the US can get away with whatever the fuck they want. Canada can probably get away with a little bit less, but still do whatever the fuck they want. Wealthy first world countries, or whatever you call them, first world, like the North, the West, whatever you fucking call them, if a country is rich enough, then it doesn't have to worry about that. It can run a deficit. it can spend and spend and spend and build infrastructure and create its own version of jobs and give people stimulus checks. Because, and here's the kicker, stimulus checks, we all know that they work to keep your economy going. Everybody fucking knows this. Because when you give somebody a stimulus check and they have a low or middle income, whatever those might be, like say within the under $300,000 range per year, everybody under that range, they spend that stimulus check. So what the fuck? Why are we pretending that it matters? Okay, and here's what I was trying to explain to my friend this morning too. You spend, the government spends the money, right? That money goes into the system. It goes to all the people, they all spend it. That goes into the system. Companies make profits. Companies can then buy, they can keep producing things. They can buy land. They can keep their stores open. They can pay their taxes. They can pay their rent. All of the economy relies on those of us at the bottom having enough money to keep everything going. If you just let everybody keep hoarding all the wealth at the top, it'll just sit there and everybody will fucking have no homes, and they'll kick us all out, and there won't be any fucking economy at all. Like that's what people don't get. If the people on the bottom, if those of us who are not wealthy are not spending, if we don't have the money to buy things, then they don't work. They have to stop producing them. All these industries that they say millennials killed, that's because they didn't have the fucking money to buy them, the products. It's fucking ridiculous. And I got a little frustrated with my friend, which I think is fair, because he's stuck in an outdated, debunked way of thinking. We know for sure that trickle-down economics doesn't work. Austerity doesn't work. None of this stuff works. Except stimulus. Except for giving people money. Higher wages. It doesn't hurt the economy. It doesn't raise prices. It actually makes people who run businesses more profitable. Even though they have to pay their staff higher wages, they make more money because more people have more money to spend. And that's just how it works. Time and time again, this is proven. And frankly, it's shocking to me that people don't know this. I understand. I just watched this documentary on fucking social media, and I understand that it's all what we see because everybody's seeing the same thing as the people that they're friends with, and it's all a bubble type situation where echo chambers and whatnot. But so I know that the reason people don't see it is because they just don't see it. It's just not there for them. It's not showing up in their Facebook feed. It's not showing up on their Twitter account or their news aggregator, because that's not what they're fucking subscribed to. But when somebody tells you that these outdated modes of thinking about economics have been debunked, like, I can't go and find every single link for everybody all the time either. But I mean, you could do a little bit of work. You can look up people like Richard Wolff and his talks on socialism. You can look up all kinds of information on UBI and studies that have been done in the past where they tested it in, I think it was a community in Nova Scotia. They tested it, and they found that The only people who didn't work were people who needed to take care of their family or went to school. But other than that, everybody still worked. It wasn't like everybody quit working even though they were getting UBI. You know? It just makes it so that we don't have to be desperate anymore. And if we're not desperate, then we are spending money. We're feeding the economy. I don't know. It's a little bit frustrating that people don't get this stuff. But I think that's all I'm going to say for today. Maybe I'll actually post this. And if I do, I will maybe talk to you folks another time. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.